What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the High Performance Fatherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Woods. Excited to be with you guys on today, discussing a very, very important topic, a topic that I believe really doesn't get enough coverage, really. I think sometimes it's taken for granted. And there are a lot of nuances that come along with this, and we're going to try to unpack some of that today, shortly. Not spend a lot of time with you guys on this today, but I just wanted to kind of get this out here because I know that there are a lot of men that want this topic covered. Today, we're going to be talking about being a stepfather. Now, a lot of times we change names, over time things change. So we have stepfather, we have, bonus dad, we have all of these different names that we call this, but we all know what a stepfather is. It's somebody that takes a responsibility. They when they marry someone, the person that they're marrying has children, and they're taking on a responsibility as a father in that child's life. So with that being said, that's one of what I wanted to kind of jump into today, because one of the things that I see, even in different groups that I'm in on Facebook and just having these conversations, is that men are always asking questions about, how to discipline a child, or how should they react towards their quote unquote stepchild in a certain situation. So right off the top, I'm gonna say this, and then we'll get a little bit deeper into it. When you marry someone that has a child, talking to the men, when you marry someone that has a child, you have to, I believe, in order to be as effective as possible, you have to remove the step title and just be father. We use that now, I guess, legal documents and stuff like that, just make things clear. But when it comes to the relationship with that child, you need to remove step and just be father, right? And it's tough, because one of the things that I see a lot of men doing that they really need to stop is that they meet a woman, she has a child or she has children, they really like this woman, they want to wife this woman, and you know what? She has kids, that's cool, I can accept them. I just want to get married. I think that's the wrong approach. When you're getting into a situation with someone that has children and you decide that you want to take that next step and get married, you have to feel for those children the same impact or the same love, so to speak, that you have for their mother, right? The kids just can't be looked at as an add-on, right? They can't be like, oh, well, she has kids, I'll accept them too. Nah, it has to be like, just as much as you're looking forward to being her husband, you have to be looking forward just as much to being their father, I believe, for this whole thing to work. You have to be fully engaged and be willing to give the child all of you as an adult, as a father, right? You can't just be willing to go halfway. And so what that means is, if you want to marry someone that has children, y'all have to talk about this beforehand. How are we going to discipline? Do you have a problem with me disciplining the children? Or, you got to make that, you got to have those conversations. You just can't get into it without a plan of action, because I'm telling you now, if you're in a situation where you marry someone that has children and you guys have not discussed things like how to discipline the children, you are potentially setting yourself up for failure, because when you get into that relationship, when you get into that marriage and something goes wrong as children, the children are going to do things and you attempt to discipline that child. If the mother has not given you full permission or full access to be a father to that child, you're going to run into problems, because at the heart of a mother, they're nurturing. That's their child, right? That's how moms are. And if she has not given you permission or has not placed you in a proper authority position in this child's life, when you go to discipline that child, you could be in for a rude awakening. So what I want to do is kind of share with you guys some stats on this, because and this is why I wanted to kind of cover this topic, and we're going to continue covering this topic over time, because I believe when we set out for 300 fathers, it was for fathers, stepfathers, and father figures, right? Like I said, fathers, but we give specific titles just because of the way things are. But when it comes down to that child, you need to be a father for that child. So let's look at some stats here. I pulled up some stats because I wanted to kind of just show you how important this is. It says an estimated 113.6 million Americans have a step relationship. Approximately 1/3 of all marriages in America today form step families. All right, there was a couple others down here. 42% of adults, 102 million, have a step relationship, either a step parent, a step or half sibling, or a stepchild. 13% of adults are step parents, which is like 29 to 30 million people. 15% of men are stepdads. 12% of women are stepmoms, right? So as you can see, here's another interesting stat here. 40% of children are born out of wedlock. Nearly 60% of these couples already have at least one child from a previous relationship. All right, so these are just some numbers, because one thing I want to do here on this podcast is make sure that we're always that we're talking the truth, that we're talking in facts. We're not just talking in emotion. So here's something to really think about, and I think this is where a lot of things can go sideways in these relationships, especially if you're entering as a stepdad. Okay, so you have the child, and obviously if you're the stepdad, that child has a biological father. Now there are there are several situations that could exist. You could have a situation where unfortunately maybe that child's biological father is no longer living. All right. You could have a situation where the biological father of the child or the children just is not active in their life. He's not around. He's a deadbeat. He's not there. He makes a decision to not be active in the life of his child. And then you have another situation where you have the biological father who is active in the life of their child, as they should be. And here you come as stepdad. These are three very important dynamics to discuss. All right, because if the child or the children's father is no longer here, they've passed, I believe that there may be some mental hurdles that you may have to prepare for when you're dealing with the child. For instance, if a child's father passed away, obviously that wasn't something that was planned for, and there's a good chance that they had a great relationship before he passed away, and in their mind that's dad, right? And they, and especially depending on what age it happens and how many experiences that they had with their father, that's dad, and they don't want anyone else coming into that space in their mind. All right, so that's something that you could have to encounter. Now let's talk about kind of the biological father that's not around. All right, here you come as stepdad. This is a little bit interesting, because if biological father is not around, then they're depending again, and a lot of this is relative to the age of the child, right? So here you come, and this could be a prime opportunity for you to step in that role as a father and be that leader, to be that support system that child needs, right? So that's one way to look at it. Now, I think this is the next one is where you got to be an adult, right? You got to be an adult. You have to be mature. And that is when you're marrying someone with children, you're becoming a stepfather, and the child or the children's father is still active in their life, right? I believe not only do when you choose to marry mom, you all not only have to have a talk about your role in the life of the child, what she expects, what position of authority she's going to place you in with the children, you need to be on good terms with their biological father. And here's why. Because a lot of times as men, our egos get involved. And inherently, the way that men and women are built, if you are a man approaching a situation, you want to be dad, you want to be father, and the child still has their biological father in their life, you can't enter that situation to be like, well, they got a dad. I don't have to be fully there. I don't have to be fully engaged. That's not true, because you're living in the house of the child while the biological father isn't. And the biological father is going to want to make sure that everything is on the, especially a biological father that is active in the life of their child, they're going to want to make sure everything is on the up and up with the dude that's living in the house with their kids, right? So you're going to have to foster this relationship. I think some of the most beautiful relationships I see are when biological dad, stepdad, I'm not saying they're friends, but they work together, almost even sometimes outside of the mother. They work together to have this bond of fatherhood for the children. I think that's one of the best things. That's like the best case scenario. And oftentimes it does not happen, because what you'll have is, what I've seen is that you'll have biological father, he's active, he's doing what he needs to do in the life of his children, but he, you know, him and mom didn't work out. He doesn't want another dude around his kids. So he's friction there. He knows they can't be together. So he's overly critical of everything that you're doing as a stepdad. He's putting stuff in her. This is a lot of drama that goes on when you talk about the dynamics of these relationships. So in speaking to stepfathers, this is what I'm saying and why I'm saying you need to approach this situation in deep thought. Do not get into this situation. Do not marry someone with children just to marry them and, okay, the children come with her, that's cool. No, I mean, you have to understand what you're walking into. You have to fully engage with mom and with the children. So you have typically three situations. Again, we're going to repeat these. You have three situations that you can have as a stepdad. The biological father could have passed away, may not be alive. The biological father may be alive, maybe in the same city or whatever, but he's just not active in the life of his children. Maybe he pays child support, maybe he doesn't, I don't know, but he's just not around. And then you have the situation where the biological father is active, is a big role in the child's life, and then your stepdad, and you guys will have to kind of figure that out. Okay, you guys will have to come together, right? So all of these situations require a big level of maturity, right? And this is, and I'm saying this because at the heart of the matter, the children are the most important thing in this situation. They cannot be an afterthought, right? And children are smart. They will know if you're just going through the motions, right? You have to be there with your entire heart for these children. All right, you have to. If you're not willing to be 100% with the child, I would just suggest to you that you do yourself a favor and maybe reconsider marrying someone with children. If you're not willing to fully commit as a father to someone else's children that you're interested in, you want to marry, if you're not willing to fully go there, then I would say that maybe the marriage thing might not be the best, because at the end of the day, you don't want to destroy anyone's life. You don't want to mess the situation up any further. You need to be fully present. All right. So I hope this makes sense. If it makes sense, make sure you share this message, out with some guys who may be going through this. Man, we don't talk as much as we should. We get in situations. Maybe we get into situations a little more than what we thought. We don't reach out for help. We don't reach out to any men who may have been in this situation that can kind of give you some guidance. So that's what this podcast is for. We want to make sure that we are living at a high level of performance when it comes to fatherhood. So appreciate you guys listening. Take care. Till the next episode.